Let's check to make sure we're in a quiet place, that we've got our headphones, so you've got your notebook and pen and pencil so you can take some great notes, and it's really important that you have your graphing calculator with you. If you do not have a graphing calculator of your own to be using, please make sure that you stop by and talk to me so we can make arrangements for that to happen, because from this point forward we're going to want to have our calculators in class every day. So if you don't have one now, you're going to need to re-watch this video when you do. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so in this video we're going to be still working on our first standard, and this is the fourth video for that, and we are graphing and identifying key characteristics of linear and piecewise functions. We're going to be learning how to use our graphing calculator to graph lines, but first we're going to start by graphing by hand. Take a moment, write that down, and then unpause when you're ready to continue. Alright, so we're graphing our linear functions by hand. I'm going to start with one that is in a very familiar form. We've got y equals 1/2 x plus 5. Okay, and to do this I'm going to start by making a table of values. So I'm going to put in values that I know will multiply by a half very nicely. So -2, 0, +2, and maybe a 4. And I'm going to go ahead and substitute those in so that I can get some y values and I can plot some points. Okay, so I put in a -2 and I get a -1, that makes a 4. Put in a 0, you get a 5. Put in a 2, you're going to get a 6. And put in a 4, you'll get a 7. So I'm going to go ahead and plot those points. That is -2, 4, 0, 5, 2, 6, and 4, 7. And my line will have arrows because it is infinite and goes on forever, so please make sure you put some arrows. Now, some of you are thinking, why did you not just take the slope of 1/2 and take the y-intercept as 0, 5 and graph that way? And I say, you're right, why didn't we do that? So we could of course graph our y-intercept, and then we could use the slope as the vertical change over the horizontal change and the vertical change and the horizontal change, and we could graph this. Either way is perfectly fine. We're going to be wanting to graph 4 points so we can give a nice picture of our line. Alright, in the next one we're going to also be graphing it by hand, but this time I'm not going to put it in the familiar form. So we're going to write it as, how about 5x minus 2y plus 7 equals 9. And if I have this, I'm going to want to put it in a easier form to work with. So your instinct is going to be to get y by itself, and I think that's fantastic, so let's do it. So I'm going to subtract the 7, subtract the 5, and divide everything by -2. And now we have the y, the slope and the y-intercept that we can use to plot. So I have a -1, and then I'm going to go a vertical change of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a horizontal change of 2, and maybe I'll do that a couple more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, and I'll go the other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. We'll connect those, put arrows on them, and we got it. There is our line. Alright, now we're going to be using the graphing calculator, and there's a couple key things. I'm going to pull up the graphing calculator here in a second on our screen for us. I'm hoping it's going to work because I've recorded this video 4 times and it hasn't worked, or various things have not gone so well. So my fingers are crossed that this is going to work this time. So we're going to start with an equation. Y equals -2/3 x plus 4, and we're going to be graphing this. What's key is that I have y alone, because in our graphing calculator we have a button that is y equals. So we have to be able to enter something into the blank space next to y equals. So if I have an equation like the previous one where everything is all mixed up on the one side, we're going to have to get y alone in order to proceed. Okay, so let's see how this works. Let's give it a try. It's going to flash some things on the screen for just a moment. I'll try to work with it. I want to continue. Please continue. Okay, there's my calculator. Excellent. So what we've got here is we're going to turn on our graphing calculator. Now you say, I don't have a TI-83, and I'm going to tell you that they all work the same. Okay, they really do. So that's not really a concern of mine that you have an 84. I think that's great that you've got the newer one that I have on my computer. So no worries if you have an 84 or an 84 plus or an 84 silver or a color graphing calculator. You've got more features. They all have these features. So we're going to start by writing down our equation that just got deleted from my screen, and that was y equals, I think, negative 2/3 x plus 4. If I'm wrong, let's use this one. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is enter it into y equals. So I've got the y equals button right over here. Okay, and then I'm going to type in negative 2 divided by 3. I'm using the negative sign, not the subtraction sign. And then where's the x? The x is located right here by the alpha. You just press the button. You don't have to do anything else. X comes up. Then we press 4, or plus 4, and we've got our equation entered. Next thing we're going to do is graph it. So we're going to press the graph key, and it goes ahead and graphs the entire line for us. If you've got a color one, it's graphing this in red or blue. All right, now, if you just have it on your calculator screen, I don't know that you actually know how to graph a line. I know that you can put it in a calculator, which is a great skill to have, but I want you to be able to graph it on paper. So to use your calculator is helpful, but we still need to put it on paper. So to do that, we're going to press second, and we're going to press graph, and this gets us a table. Now your table may be in various places. I want you to go ahead and scroll all the way until you see, some nicer numbers. So here I can see I can pull some numbers like negative 3, 6 and 0, 4 and 3, 2 and 6, 0. So you can look for some nice points to be able to graph. If you have a calculator and you borrowed it from an older sibling or from a friend and you were not able to pull up this table, there's a few things you can check. For example, you can press table, second, window here, second, window, and you want it to look like this: a 0, a 1, auto, auto. 0, 1, auto, auto. And that is under second window for those of you that may not have the nicest table. Okay, if your table looked just like mine, then that's as good as it's going to get. All right, now what if you were not given an equation that was in this form? For example, you were given that 3x minus 2y equals 10 equation. Well, you have to go ahead and solve that for y, and then you'll be able to enter it. The last thing we're going to take a look at is what if you were given an equation such as y equals negative 5/3 x plus 25. Okay, so let's go ahead back to the y equals, and we're going to clear it out by pressing the clear button that's right here underneath of the arrows. And then we'll type in negative 5/3, x is over here by the alpha button, and plus 25. I encourage you to write down the locations of these buttons, like where is X, where is the clear, where is Y equals, how do I find a table, so that you are able to look back in your notes and find them without having to ask everybody all the time. So I'm going to press the graph button, and I notice that I only see this small piece of graph in the corner, and that's because our graph doesn't fit in what we call the window. This is our window. So in order to see the graph, we're going to have to adjust the window. And to do that, we're going to press the window button, which is right here. And to adjust the window, we're going to have to decide how much more we need to see. Well, since I can see that I have right here a y-intercept of 25, then I need my y maximum value to be more than 25. So we can go ahead and arrow down until you can change that to, maybe we'll make it 30. Let's see what that does to our graph. Now I'm going to press graph. And I can see my y-intercept now. So that's a much better picture. But I also can't see my x-intercept. So I want to make it a larger x maximum. My x minimum are all my negatives, and I don't need any more negatives. I need more positives. So I'm going to go back to the window, and I'm going to change my maximum, let's say to 20. Let's see what that does. Press graph, and there you go. Now I have a nicer picture of what this graph is. Let's go to the table, second, table, and we'll take a look at those values. So for something like this, we might have to, if I'm transferring this information to a graph on my paper, is if I were to graph this, I would want 0, 25. I don't want to have to graph 25 tick marks. So maybe I would be graphing, and I would say the y's go by 5. My y's go by 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. This is called scaling. I'm scaling the graph. The next one would be 3, 20. So I'm going over 3, but I'm going up 20. 5, 10, 15, 20. And then I'll find another one by arrowing down, and I've got 6, 15. And this gives me, oops, that's a little sloppy there, and this gives me a nice graph. Okay, so I want you to be able to know how to graph by hand and where these certain features are on our calculator. We need to know where the y equals button is, how do we graph it, how do we get a table, and how do we adjust the window. If you have any questions, please make sure you post them on Schoology or write them down so we can discuss them in class.